So welcome everyone to the February Digital Drop-In. My name is Sarah Benoit and I am with the organization Learn Tourism, and I'm so excited to be kicking off the new year as part of their team. And I'm also so grateful that Learn Tourism has decided they will continue to host our digital drop-ins every month. So for those of you who don't know, we've been doing this for quite a long time. It's one of my favorite things to do every month is to share kind of what's happening in the world of digital marketing and to give you some really interesting tips, tricks, trends, and ways to be prepared for all the ways or all the different avenues through which our technology is going to evolve in the coming year. So today we are talking about one of my favorite subjects, storytelling in the age of AI and generative search. Most of you know my background over the last 23 years has been in search engine optimization. It's one of my core passions, and that's really the angle at which we're going to approach this topic today. I do want to be clear, though, as we start, that essentially search engine optimization is not the only thing that matters in content marketing, right? So all of the other things that we associate with social media, with digital advertising, with owned media, all the different channels that we're using with email marketing, with text marketing, all of that different stuff. SEO is just one piece of this puzzle. So even though I'm going to have kind of an angle today where we talk about some of the changes going on in Google and the search engines, I think you'll see as we go through the content that the truth is, to win online, we really have to perceive our online presence as an ecosystem that's fully interconnected and working together to create the results that we want for our brand. Now, I want to start really quick by just sharing a little bit with you about Learn Tourism and what we're working on this year. It'll just take a minute or so. And again, if you're just joining, welcome. But I wanted to just give you kind of an idea of what Learn Tourism does and how they are going to be really supporting me in the work I've done over the last 14 years going into the future.
Welcome to the Academy at learntourism.org. Our mission is to advance the tourism industry by leveraging science, business psychology, and adult education to build sustainable economies and foster meaningful experiences. We partner with destinations, travel planners, and industry professionals to deliver cutting-edge training programs and resources. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in the ever-evolving tourism landscape. Through our learning experience platform, we offer customized course development and access to inspiring experts. These tailored solutions are designed to enhance professional growth and make a significant impact in the global industry. Join us as we explore new ideas and share valuable insights to shape the future of tourism. Together, we can create a dynamic and engaging environment that fosters innovation and collaboration throughout the tourism sector. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to a dynamic session. Connect with us at learntourism.org to unlock your potential and contribute to the vibrant world of tourism. Let's make a difference together.
Again, I want to say thanks to Learn Tourism for really wanting to continue our digital drop-ins on a regular basis and to support me bringing knowledge and skills every month that you can access for free. It's something that I've really enjoyed over the years, and I'm excited to keep it going. So essentially, the other thing that Learn Tourism is going to be doing is producing our DIY tourism marketing conference this year, which again is another part of my job that I really, really love, and I'm super excited that we're going to keep in the family. So if you are interested in coming to Asheville and learning in person, you can check us out at DIYtourismmarketing.com. And again, I know Eric's with us today from Learn Tourism, so thanks for joining us for the webinar today. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'm sure that Eric will answer them. So again, our topic for today is storytelling in the age of AI and generative search. And as I mentioned, SEO is one of my core kind of passions in life. And I feel like this year, as we go into 2025, there's so many questions coming up for different businesses and organizations about how they are going to be able to adapt to what's happening in the world of search engines and artificial intelligence. So you may be asking yourself some of these questions, right? How can you be prepared for what's going to happen to the search engines? How are you going to optimize your website in the future? How can you continue to create content that's actually driving results? What do you need to know about the algorithms? And how can we increase our efficiency and make our lives easier with different types of automation while also remaining original and different and unique in a lot of ways, right? Especially for those of us that do marketing on a regular basis. It's so important that we have those unique selling propositions, those things that make us different. So, how are we going to balance those things as we continue to tell stories and create content? I think one of the things that we want to have in the bedrock of this conversation at all times is some of the ethics and policy issues right now around the fact that most of what's happening on the internet now is fully integrated with algorithmic technology that's run by machine learning, right? It doesn't matter whether we're talking about Google or Facebook or Pinterest or LinkedIn or MailChimp or any of these things, Canva, all of them are integrating this sort of deeper level of AI that we can interface with. And so there's a few things I just wanted to highlight at the beginning of our conversation around storytelling and content that I think are really important. And you want to be ready as a leader in your industry, as a communicator and a professional marketer to really take kind of some level of leadership around this, right? It's important to be able to have conversations about these issues and to be paying attention to what's developing when it comes to laws, regulations, and policy. So there's lots of ethical concerns with AI and how it's evolving the technology. But I think the top three that come into play when we're talking about storytelling and content are creative and intellectual property, equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, and privacy and security. So these are areas where I think as storytellers, as communicators, and people that actually create content in some ways, we really want to be thinking about, how are we respecting other people's creative and intellectual property? How are we protecting our own? How are we making sure that the stories we tell are actually reflective of our communities, our audiences, and all the different people that are part of our network? And we are going to talk a little bit about how we can utilize things like AI to make our lives easier. And when we talk about that, I think we start tapping into this conversation of privacy and security. So when you're choosing tools, how can you make sure that you choose to work with tools, especially AI-oriented tools for content, where they will protect the information that you're giving them, especially if it has anything to do with the actual people that you serve? So I just don't want us to leave that out of the conversation because I think this is a moving target. We don't really know what the laws are, what the regulations are. They're sort of in development as we go along. So typical of digital marketing, we're building the plane while we fly the plane. So in a lot of ways, we have to be willing to keep up with these things as well as implement best practices and actually learn more and build our skills. So again, if you joined a little bit late, I want to just say there is a poll for you to complete, and I'd love to have you add to that. And we're going to take a look at that in just a few minutes. But to start us off, I want to say, even though we're in this age of tech where things seem really automated and really robotic in some fashions, right? Where this technology is going to be able to help us do all sorts of cool, different types of things, we're not removing the importance of people and putting them first when it comes to our marketing. As a matter of fact, I think this whole shift that we're going through is actually going to make this concept even more important. So people have to come first when it comes to storytelling, communicating, marketing, and at the end of the day, growing your business. I think one of the ways, and especially for those of you who saw me speak recently up in York or down in Auburn, Opelika, Alabama, you'll know I already talked about this in depth, but one of the things I want to encourage everyone to do, whether you use the free versions that are listed here, and you'll get a copy of this slide deck and the recording, so you can click on these links and dig in, whether you use some of these free versions or you have a paid version of one of these, I think it's really important to start out by exploring what stories the AI already knows about you. What we're seeing is that ChatGPT or OpenAI, plus Meta, plus Gemini, which is Google's AI, plus Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI. All of these different systems are going to be implemented more into the way that we look for products, services, information, anything that we need online. So right now, one of the first steps you can take is to really start to speak to these different systems and find out what these AI systems know about your brand, about your products, your services, your organization. What do they know about the history? What do they know about the mission, vision, and values? What do they know specifically about what you provide? Do they know anything about your target audiences and who you work with? So, one of the things that you can start doing for your own brand in the beginning is exploring the stories that are already out there. And I would also say that when you are talking to these different types of systems, you get to be sort of the guardian of the brand. You get the person to be the person that has a lot of the brand knowledge and awareness and history all memorized and right available to you. So don't be afraid to correct it, to guide it, to teach it, to share with these different systems links to your own website, to your own blog, to your own social media, and to really build a relationship with the AI, because these systems are going to be so integrated with the way that people search in the future, whether that's on their phone or their desktop, their laptop, their tablet. I just think it's going to be very, very valuable. So having these conversations can be one of the best ways that you can start to identify a few things. One is what stories are already out there, are well known, are accurate, are sourced in multiple places, and what part of your stories are really not out there yet, aren't being indexed by the AI, aren't being viewed by them, or are there sources about you that aren't really being identified as core sources? You can really start to create a solid bedrock for a successful content strategy this year by playing with these tools in the beginning. I also think that one of the things we're going to be looking at and digging into deeper this year is search intent. Because not only has search intent always been a conversation, but as technology changes, it changes the behaviors of people. And when our behaviors change as the public, the people that are utilizing all these different platforms, what we really see is that our search intent tends to evolve as well. So, search intent is directly connected to consumer behavior, to audience behavior. And regardless of which platform they use, right? Regardless of whether it's social media or the search engine or email or it's their laptop, desktop, tablet, phone, being able to dig more deeply into why they are searching for certain things and what they want to accomplish when they go to the internet is going to be really key. This relates a lot to the customer journey, which we'll talk about, but I think a lot of times we focus so much on keywords and we don't really focus on the intentions behind those keywords. And keywords are valuable, but it's really important to think about not just what did they type in, but why did they type it in? Right? And this is especially important when you're looking at content that is going to attract people that are not familiar with your brand. So they may be searching for unbranded things versus people that actually already know your brand name in some way. And they've actually searched for you on Google through a branded search, right? To connect with you. They've already heard from a friend, they've seen something in some other form of marketing, and now they're going to the search engines to actually connect directly with you. So that branded and non-branded conversation is really evolving. And we're going to talk about why, but I think that's directly related to the intentions behind why people search, right? And just as a reminder, there's usually about four different kinds of search intent that we talk about. So it's informational, navigational, commercial, and transactional, right? And so what we're seeing is that, informational searches, which are typically non-branded, although they are probably a little over half of the search market, we're really seeing that the navigational, commercial, and transactional sort of search intent, which is all related to knowing brand names, website names, specific product and service names, or even being ready to buy, we really want to understand kind of where people fall in their kind of intentions and which groups of queries or keywords fall into each one of those buckets, basically, right? So why we're talking about people first is because I think when it comes to storytelling, even in the age of AI, the goal that we are going to have is really in activating our people. So our existing clients, our existing customers, our existing donors, our existing visitors, our existing community, we want to actually really engage those people. We want to activate them. We want to get them involved. And we really want to see them as a pathway to new people. So this is something I think as generative search starts to take over, what we're going to see is that people interacting with each other around a brand, interacting with each other around a topic related to that brand or a product or service is going to become incredibly valuable. This is already a basic principle of social media, right? If the people in your network don't engage, why would they show anything to people that haven't heard of you before? So I think we're going to take that principle that's very strong in the social media algorithms. We're going to see that expand across everything on the web, right? So activating, engaging, connecting with, bonding with the people who already support your brand, who already believe in what you do, have already heard about you before from someone else they trust. It's going to be incredibly valuable to think about your content from that perspective, right? So we don't want to think about how we're only creating content for new people who maybe don't know what we do, don't know who we are. We really want to make sure that we have kind of two different approaches to content. And the goal is really how can we bring our existing audiences into deeper relationship with us? And if they develop a deeper relationship with us across the board in our online ecosystem, it becomes pretty amazing how much growth we can see both in our reach and in our engagement and eventually inside of our conversions, right? So think about that and think about again how when people hear about you, there's a chance they went to Google or Bing or even social media and searched for you in the search bar. And so the first thing they find about you is going to be their first impression. And just like any other long-term relationship, we want to make a great first impression, right? On top of this with content, we have to put user experience or usability of the content we're sharing with people as like the number one priority. So it does not matter to me what platform or tool the customers or the audience members are using. They need to get where they want to go quickly and easily. They need to find what they need quickly and easily. It's absolutely essential, especially when we look at the fact that people are now engaging in this more kind of conversational way, whether that's with AI chatbots or it's with voice search features on Google and Siri and Alexa. Essentially, what we're finding is that people are going to interact more naturally with their tech, right? And so it's very key that that natural, fast, easy, simple interaction they're having with their tools, that's reflected when they end up in something related to our ecosystem. This is where we need to be. I'm going to give you some really good content tips in just a minute that I think actually are clear examples of how you do this. But I think it's really key to be thinking about this, right? This might be about testing your website, looking at the pages that are doing well in search engines or looking at the content that is doing well on social media or looking at your best emails from your last few newsletters or campaigns. I think it's going to be really important to kind of look at, are all of these things just making the customer journey super clear, right? Is everything they need to make a decision to say yes to us easily accessible? Is it really natural? Does it make sense the way that everything flows, right? So this is more than just testing to make sure that your site loads fast, which I think is one of the top things, but it's even just thinking about the flow of the content, right? As we move into using more AI tools in the future to assess and evaluate things from a data perspective and a performance perspective, I think we're going to get a lot more awesome ability to kind of understand in a deeper way, right? Why are people enjoying this particular page over this particular page? Were we able to see that certain types of content really activated people in a more actionable way? Right. So really thinking about the customer journey, think about your calls to action, thinking about what funnels are inside of your ecosystem, right? How do people get from Instagram over to your website to signing up and buying a ticket for an event, right? How can you really understand those things? We really want to prioritize them going forward, I feel, because to me, if we do all that work to drive people into our ecosystem, into our digital landscape, we want to make sure that what they get when they arrive there is what they expected and what they wanted and so forth. One of the things some of you know, if you've been in my webinars before, I have a deep love of Rand Fishkin. He is one of the most awesome, I feel, SEO experts in the country. And he does so many different studies and shares so much data through his company, Spark Toro. But he said something in an article recently that really stood out to me. It was from 1997 to 2017, search was an excellent place to start marketing. Today, search is largely a reward for doing marketing right everywhere else. I thought this was really profound because this goes to what I was saying about branded versus non-branded content, branded versus non-branded keywords and conversations and storytelling, right? Because essentially what he's saying is that we need to do all of our marketing in a very positive, powerful way, right? That means good branding, good consistency, clear messages, clarity around what we want people to do, what actions we want them to take, choosing our tools wisely so that we're going to the places online out there that we know our potential audience or existing audience, they're already gathered there. So I think having that holistic view of everything is really important and always has been. But going forward, we need to really commit to it. And we really need to start putting it into practice, right? And we don't want to think of search engines as something where people are starting. That's their first place to ask a question, because that's no longer the case, right? Many people start their customer journey from an email. Many people start their customer journey from a social media platform. Some people even start their customer journey when they're at an event that you have and they go online to look for something. So we really don't want to think again of SEO anymore. I'm not even sure we'll be using that term going forward, but we don't want to think of SEO as just kind of this starting place or the top of the funnel. It can be anywhere in the customer journey. It can be at the beginning of the funnel, in the middle of the funnel. And so we just want to evolve our sort of content strategy perspective to thinking about that. So really quick, I just want to see with the poll, we're going to go ahead and end this really quick and I can relaunch it to see if other people want to add to it. But this is really exciting just to see that, about 63% of you are creating content regularly, right? 91% of you, SEO matters to your brand, right? And about 56% of you are already using AI tools. So a lot of you are already on this path. And for those of you that, SEO doesn't really matter, then these content strategies will still have a lot of value for other types of marketing, right? So whether that's social media, email marketing, and things like that. For those of you who haven't started using AI in any really powerful way yet, that's okay. I think what you're going to see is your existing tools start integrating AI in a deeper way. And we've seen that across the board with Google Search, Google Ads, Google Search Console, Google Analytics, Microsoft Bing. They have their own tracking system that I'm getting ready to test right now. So all of these different things, including all the email platforms, all the social media platforms, even some of the platforms we're using for design of content, scheduling of content, writing of blogs, things like that, they are all having this kind of AI built into it. So you don't necessarily have to go out and look for it. It's going to come to your desk if it's not, or it's pretty much already there, if we're honest, but it's coming to you. So you can figure out ways to integrate a deeper understanding of AI just by kind of participating in the changes that are happening on the tools that you already trust and rely on. Also, I just want to give a reminder, I've got the Q&A up there. If you have specific questions, you can drop them in. We'll have time to answer them before the top of the hour. And you can also put them in the chat as well, and I'll monitor that. After talking about this, what is it that we can literally do? Because that's what I'm always about, right? How does this change how I am going to do things as a content creator, as a marketer? So the evolution of content strategy, here's 5 things that I think are going to be really important. And if you've studied SEO at all and you've learned about the knowledge panel, right? That's when Google would just answer a question right at the top and kind of pick a website to kind of be the authoritative answer. I think that's where we're going overall with content, whether it's social media and Meta's tools, which is implementing AI and establishing itself more as a search engine, whether it's Google evolving, whether it's Search GPT, which is kind of Chat GPT's push into the search engine market, or it's Microsoft Bing and Copilot, which are also already making a play for a larger percentage of the search market. I think what we're going to see is across the board, again, when it comes to content, people are no longer searching for content. They're asking questions to a kind of chatbot that has a kind of concierge, sort of identity. And that concierge or chatbot is going to basically let them ask questions, refine questions, and it's going to bring them resources, right? It's going to bring them the answers, or it's going to bring them different ways to look at a topic or different opinions about a topic. And it's going to source that from different areas all over the internet. So I think because that knowledge panel on steroids approach is going to happen, there's 5 key things that you can do right now when you're thinking about content for 2025. So FAQs. If you already have them on your site, awesome. Take your FAQs to the next level. Expand the FAQs, write more FAQs. If you want to get multimedia about it, do some videos of the most important questions. Really advance your understanding of how people that are in different parts of the customer journey have different questions or different challenges or different problems or different things that are going to help move them along to the next step of their journey, right? So how can we make sure that we reflect all of those different things? Now, it does mean you might end up with an FAQs page that's pretty long and involved. So let's not sacrifice usability, right? Let's make sure that we're still creating pages that load fast, that are easy to navigate and understand, that help people get to exactly what they need, while also expanding kind of what we cover in those areas. I think that gives us more opportunities to be considered the authoritative answer for a question, right? Now, again, there's going to be competition. It's not to say you just expand your FAQs and you win. But I think if we start doing this now and thinking about it and building out our content, we're going to do better over the course of the next year. Long tail terms plus trends. So again, if you have an SEO sort of knowledge or background, you understand long tail terms are simply the fact that people don't go to the internet and look for 1-word phrases, 2-word phrases, 3-word phrases. Actually, they go to the internet now and they just ask questions. Sometimes those questions are very long. Between voice search and the AI implementation that we're seeing across the board, conversations are just getting more natural, more real time, right? So people are really talking to their tech in a way that's very reflective of how they talk to other people. And so we really want to combine the fact that people are looking for things in a very specific way with kind of the larger trends that are out there. We want our content to have a mixture of both of these things. So again, this is about creating balance in your content strategy. Are you looking at the bigger picture? Are you looking at things that are getting lots of people to engage? Are you building off that if it's relevant to your brand and to your industry and your products and services? Well, also, are you making the time to develop content that is more specific, right? That digs into exactly what people want to know about products or services or offerings or events or experiences. How can we really think about problems, challenges, needs, desires, as well as thinking about things that are entertaining, funny for the culture, right? How can we make sure that we kind of have a balance in our approach there? Owned media. So this is something that I have talked to my friend Adam Stoker about, and he runs the Destination Marketing podcast. Owned media is something that I really believe in. The first time I heard him give a great keynote about this, I got so excited. But this is where I think going forward this year, one of the things you can really think about is how are you leveraging content that is really yours? It belongs to your brand. It is something that no matter what happens to the channels, right? The channels that you're publishing your content on, that content still exists and it can be repurposed into many channels, shared on many platforms. So this is things like your blog, your email newsletters, your podcasts, any types of video series or webinars you're doing, literal in-person or virtual events, downloadable content like ebooks and guides. All of these things are owned media, right? There's something that you create that the brand owns that you can then repurpose, reuse, share across platforms, and hopefully they will have value into the future, right? So I write a lot of stuff that is definitely trending and things that maybe won't be valuable 6 months from now. But I also think about how I can create evergreen content, even within the digital marketing space, that is something I think will be useful to people down the road. So there's going to be a mixture of owned media sometimes, depending on your industry. Some of you may be in talking about different subjects, topics related to your brand, your company, or even your destination. They won't change. They'll stay pretty much the same. But most of us will also have at least some percentage where there's something shifting and changing. Especially in today's world, I think it's really important to be prepared for the unexpected. And I think the last 5 years have really taught all of us that, right? That we can't always rely on everything being the same. But when we invest in owned media, in storytelling that really belongs to us, we're able to really take that and take a longer piece of content and turn it into a bunch of shorter pieces of content. Or to think about how we can utilize a larger topic area and then dig down into those specifics, right, that I talked about as part of the long tail. So really investing in that this year, I think is going to be valuable. Along with owned media, I think comes the collection of first party data. So this is where people consensually give you their name, their email, and any other information that you've asked them for, right? So this may be a giveaway, a contest. It may be some of these downloadable types of content. It might be that you've put out surveys, right? All of that kind of stuff where you can ask people to become part of a member portal, even purchasing products, like literally purchasing them, right? A lot of times you get more first party data out of that transaction. So how can we really think about our content strategy with that in mind? How can we give people more opportunities? If we've built a really good relationship with our audiences, how can we give them more opportunities to provide us with the information we need to understand them better? And how can we make it a win-win for us and them? And so it's really important, I think, to think of how owned media can support creating ideas for gathering first party data. So I think there's lots of different cool things you can do, especially with email, which a lot of people don't think about, but email is getting really powerful. And with the implementation of AI into a lot of the platforms, you're getting a lot of opportunities to re-engage people in different ways and to segment them more easily and more quickly. So how can we sort of use number 3 and number 4 together? And then 5 is something I personally have dubbed the unify and diversify strategy. And this is where I feel like your brand, your voice, your messaging, it has to be really consistent and really powerfully sort of, it has to have personality, it has to have flavor. That's really what's going to allow people to connect to it in a lot of ways and to remember you later, which is so important. But we also need to diversify when it comes to multimedia and multi-platform use. So we may not have the resources, time, or money to have, let's say, a very large group of platforms. So if you're only using 1 or 2 platforms, I want to say that's totally fine because you only want to use what you can use, right? What you actually have the time, money, or energy to use. But where we can diversify is really thinking in long form and short form, and thinking in video, animations, static graphics, carousels, live streams, right? That's where we can take 1 or 2 of these approaches and diversify how we're talking about something, the different ways that we're talking about something. And that's because I think what we're going to find is when people search for different products and services or places or brands online, the results now are going to bring to them on various platforms a number of different mediums, right? Depending on who the person is. So it could be that they get some video, some Instagram posts, an AI overview, whatever it is. So we're going to see that the experience of looking for something online becomes much more visual and much more interactive overall. So we want to just really take that approach from a brand perspective to make our ecosystem stronger, more interconnected, more unified, while also maybe taking our content approach creatively to a more diversified place. And again, if you've got any questions, feel free to chat them in or drop them in the Q&A. I'm glad to answer them. but I'm going to keep moving through. I just want to make sure there's no burning questions that you guys have. The other thing that we're going to see going forward with storytelling is the power of data. So AI is giving us a way to more quickly, easily, efficiently tell our stories, right? And so that's awesome. I'm hoping that I will have more time for creativity and less time for a lot of the manual things that go into content creation. However, we're also going to get the ability in a lot of ways to use data to understand the stories of our customers and our visitors and our audiences in deeper ways, right? So to me, like that's going to be kind of a wave of the future. It's something I'm already tapping into. So a good example of this would be I've already been using both free and paid ChatGPT to pull reports from my Google Analytics 4, from my Meta Insights, and from my MailChimp reports, and actually uploading those spreadsheets into ChatGPT and asking it to do a few different things. One, I'm asking it for sort of a summarized overview of what the data says. Then I'm usually asking it to give me some highlights. What are the best parts of the data? What are the most exciting parts of the data? Or maybe what are the scariest parts of the data? And then from there, really asking the AI to provide me with an overview of steps that I think the clients or the students should take in order to improve what they're doing, right? So the ways that I've used this are basically with email marketing. I'm pulling content reports in Meta Insights. I'm pulling content reports and audience reports. In Google Analytics 4, I'm pulling acquisition reports, and all of these things can be exported as CSV spreadsheets. Then I'm going into my ChatGPT and I'm utilizing that system to sort of more quickly and easily create the story of what's happening on that platform with our audiences. Now, of course, there's going to be limitations depending on what platform we're talking about. And I do think it's very key, especially with something like MailChimp reports or any e-newsletter reports. I never include the emails of the people on my list. So right now, ChatGPT really doesn't give me any guarantees, but what they would do if I uploaded a spreadsheet with everybody's email. So that's not the kind of reporting that I'm sharing with them, right? But I can share reports about over the last year which email newsletters did better, how did they do better, why do you think they did better, and what are some things that I might be able to do to improve the performance of those things. So this is where I think storytelling is going to become a front end and back end thing. It always has been, but I think for all of us we want to start perceiving it that way, right? So when you look at your insights and your analytics, in my world you're actually listening to folks, you're actually in relationship with them when you look at that data and you are having a conversation with them, right, in sort of a different way. So how can we utilize these conversations more, understand the stories of what's happening on our website, happening on our social platforms, happening in our email content and marketing, and then sort of utilize that to come up with ways that we want to talk to people out in the public, ways that we want to engage our existing customers, things we want to talk about in order to attract new visitors. So how can we really utilize those things together? And then one of the biggest things we can all do this year is watch your organic search traffic. So if you have a website and you have GA4 or you have a different type of tracking, maybe you have Squarespace, they have tracking built in, or Wix, they have tracking built in. Are you watching how you're doing on organic search engines? And do you see any changes there? Now, if you're one of the small number of people that said SEO doesn't really matter to you, then you don't really need to pay attention to this. Although I would argue that everybody should know how their website performs on a search engine. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that, especially using Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools, which are free. They allow you to sort of see how you're being indexed, whether or not you can be seen, what types of keywords you're already being recognized for. But I think overall, even when SEO is not the top priority, knowing how well you're doing on those platforms is important because it tells you something very technical about your website and whether or not different things that are indexing or looking at your website and gathering information about it can see everything there. And also, like, how clearly do they understand what you do, right? And I just think this is going to become especially important as what we call position zero or zero click increases and eventually takes over. So Google is saying, they're going to do the Googling for you. And so the goal, I think, overall, when people search, whether it's going to be in the future on a search engine like Google or maybe Meta, like I said, or ChatGPT or Bing, essentially what we're going to see is that they there's no like 1 through 10. There's no clickable things necessarily that they're paying attention to. It's much more interactive with content right up front. So people can engage right with that chatbot to never have to click away or look for anything. They just get an answer to the question. If they need a different answer or more information, they ask additional questions. So this is where you can benchmark where you're at this year with organic search traffic. For many of you, if you have GA4, you may only have data from last July or the July before is probably as far back as you can go, July of 2023. But have you noticed that you're having a drop at all in organic search traffic over time? I think just knowing that that's happening is very important because sometimes that traffic is driving engagement, it's driving sales and things like that. So we want to be prepared for that drop to happen as search engines and social media merge and we all start using this kind of AI driven way of looking for things. I think you'll also be able to use your data to identify other strong drivers of website traffic and conversions and invest in them, right? So if you know that your Instagram is doing really well, think about how this year you invest in that platform, you amplify your content there, you just learn from your data and improve what you're working on, right? Or diversify what kinds of multimedia approach you're taking. Or maybe it's email, maybe it's next door, like maybe it's LinkedIn. There's so many different channels potentially out there, Pinterest, that could be really driving traffic to your website and potentially growing your business. And so how can we make sure that we highlight what those are, figure out what's working and put more energy into that? And then you'll hear a lot of us in the marketing field talking about how brand is so key. So if you've never really done a deep dive into your brand, your mission, vision, values, your style guide, your voice, your audience personas, if you've never done that before, do it now. There's lots of free resources for doing it online. There's lots of amazing people in the world that you could hire to walk you through this process that already have really amazing ways to go through a creative kind of system that allows you to really clarify for yourself what your brand is about. But I think investing in this is going to be really valuable based on what Rand Fishkin said, right? When people see a strong brand and they relate to it, they feel connected to it, they feel like it speaks to them, they are more likely to really stick with you, to go through your different ecosystem sort of channels, to engage with you in different ways, and most of all, to tell their friends, right? Which is really powerful. So definitely put this on your radar and think about how you can really know tense and concerned. How can you amplify that in 2025? And then one thing I just want to remind everybody of, I love talking about emotional intelligence. I think it's incredibly important as a professional in general and as a human being, but I also think as a communicator, as a marketer, as a salesperson, this is absolutely essential, right? I think self-awareness, emotional awareness, compassion, these things are what allow people to feel connected and to relate to us in a lot of ways. And especially once we've gotten somebody as a visitor, as a customer, as a client, as a donor, once they're in our network, it's so valuable in strengthening the relationship. If we build this part of ourselves and build this part of our team, right? And consider this something that is actually good work to do from a professional and business standpoint. I also think that as AI is moving forward and a lot of the content we create is influenced by AI, it is delivered by AI, then when we're searching for things, we're engaging with the AI. I just want us to remember that right now, at least, what sets us apart is our emotional intelligence to a certain extent, right? Our ability to have these levels of understanding of other people, stepping into their shoes, having an awareness of how we feel and when it changes and why it changes. That's something that AI doesn't really understand. It knows narrative and character, human psychology, behavior, trends, the basics of business and sales, but it doesn't really have the nuance that I think comes from actually being a person. And so this is where I think as part of your content strategy, just keeping this in mind, whenever you're creating content, really diving in again to putting people first, which I talked about at the beginning, thinking about our audiences. What do they want and need? What does our brand stand for? What does our brand want and need? Where do we find the overlap of all that, right? And the truth is, when we develop this deeper level of emotional intelligence, our stories become more accessible, more connective, more impactful. And those stories that people end up having a feeling about, right? They end up having emotions about what we share, what we say, what we do. That is actually what drives them to sign up, follow, contact us, buy something from us, come to an event. It's literally those storytelling is what creates the feelings, and those feelings are what allow us to be memorable and shareable. It's what makes people's brains remember what we said, remember what we're about, and also do something with that information. So I just want to make sure that we end on that note, right? There's lots of different actions we can take, lots of technical things we can know. But if we're not developing ourselves as individuals and people, and we're not thinking about the folks that we want to serve, our stories are lacking a little bit. So we've got just a couple minutes. I haven't seen any questions come through, but I'm willing to answer anything if you'd like to chat them in or drop them in the Q&A. And actually, I might be missing stuff in the Q&A. Thanks for that. So Kristen, when you upload reports to ChatGPT for analysis, what formats are the uploaded documents in? So I upload CSV spreadsheets. That is typically what is allowed to be exported most commonly and is easiest to read. I do know that PDFs may work as well, but I'm getting the best results out of my CSV spreadsheets. And then Daniel, you're curious about your flow in writing copy for digital marketing with AI. Do you start with AI prompted text? Do you write then feed through AI? Some other combination? We're working to keep our copy authentic while utilizing AI to streamline writing, increase output, and to post on several platforms. A lot of the time, AI generated text loses the human feel for us. So absolutely, I think there's a few different ways that you can approach this. And it's really based a little bit more, I think, on your process as a writer, especially. For me, I tend to like to brain dump a lot of my thoughts first, then ask the AI to organize those thoughts. Then I come back in, I refine that writing, and then I ask it for another edit. And then sometimes at the end, I run it through a tester to see if the AI is being detected, and if so, at what percentage. My goal would be that a lot of my content does not get detected as AI content. And if it does, that it's a very low percentage. And, again, I was already a fast writer though. And so I think because I'm so good at writing and I've been doing it for 30 years, it's something that happens more naturally for me. If you were somebody that struggles to write more, I think you might want to engage the AI first and get an outline for something just by talking to it about what you're trying to accomplish. I think, it's really about having that back and forth and thinking of the AI as what I would call a collaborative creator. To me, it's really about that relationship that you're building with the AI, that whatever tool you're using, you use the same chat, you engage with it, you feed it good information about your brand, you sort of train it while also getting it to help you with things, right? So I think that's where, rather than thinking of it as a task completion system or something that's just going to do what you say, really think of it as this relationship, this collaborative nature, because that is what the AI is. And you're teaching it more the more you use it, and things like that. And then I see from the Tweetsy Railroad, what AI testers do you use? So I shared some platforms in the very beginning. Right now, for free, I am testing Google Gemini. I'm testing ChatGPT. I'm testing Microsoft's Copilot. And I'm also testing Meta's AI. And at the beginning of the slide deck, I have links to all those free systems that you can use. And I suggested that everybody go there and at least ask the systems what they know about your brand, your business, and what you do, because you'll immediately learn kind of what stories the AI has already been told about you, if any. And you'll also be able to feedback with the AI and tell it when it's wrong, when it's inaccurate, and things like that. So hopefully feel free to jump in the chat and let me know if I'm not answering that question accurately. But if we're talking about the platforms that I'm sort of using just to understand how it works better and to figure out how we can implement AI to save us time and save us energy and to streamline our workflows, like Daniel was just talking about. That's where I'm starting, if just to sort of get the flavor of it, right? And to learn more about how it works and to see what it's like to train it and get to know it. So I know we're just a couple minutes past. Thank you all so much for being here. As usual, I just want to say you do amazing things. More people should know. So I'm really excited for you to take what I've shared with you today and implement it in your 2025 content strategy approach. Again, I think these are things that everybody can do. They're really accessible. You will also have my contact information in here as well if you would like to reach out to me with any additional questions. I see there's a couple questions in the chat, which I'm about to answer. But for those of you that have to go for the day, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad this was helpful. And again, I know some questions come up sometimes a week later. Don't hesitate to connect with me on social media or just ping me by email and say, hey, I've got an extra question here. So again, let's see. Heidi, you had a question. When you upload data, are you using custom GPTs? So I'm doing both. I'm using the free version of ChatGPT and I'm using the paid version. And there's limitations when you use the free version on what kind of data you can upload and how much, but you don't actually need to pay. I did my first GA4 spreadsheet upload with the free ChatGPT and got great information about my acquisition report. Yeah, and thanks, Kim. I'm glad again, thanks to Learn Tourism for helping us keep this whole community alive, because I'm so excited that we get to do another year of this. And then Rhea, I see your question. Are there any grants or scholarships for hurricane affected businesses for the conference coming up? So I'm going to encourage you, Rhea, please reach out to me. I would love to talk about that. There's nothing really official, but I am working with different people that are sponsoring in folks that need support to come. So please feel free to reach out to me. Let me know what it is you're looking for, and I will definitely see what I can do for our local folks. And again, thanks to everybody who's heading out today. So glad you were here. I'm really, really glad this was helpful to a lot of you. And again, consider me a resource. Please reach out to me anytime if you have additional questions. And as we go forward into 2025, I just want to say, don't be afraid. With all this change, with all these challenges that we're going to face, there is going to be great opportunity, I feel, as part of those changes. So if you're a content creator, just know you want to be agile, you want to be flexible, you want to be ready to learn. For all brands that are putting messaging out there and connecting with their audiences, just know, again, there might be challenges, there might be some uphill battles, but at the end of the day, I think we're also going to see the things get a lot easier, clearer, and hopefully at the end of the day, what happens is we put people first, which is, really the most important part of marketing, in my opinion, at the end of the day. It's the relationships we build and it's the stories that we tell. So thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you at our next digital drop-in March.